the things that count. They're the everyday moments that matter, driving our determination, fueling our passion, and connecting us to the people we love in a place we call home.
I love my KY.
Every day, every newscast, everywhere you need us, you can count on LEX-18 News for the things that count. Count on LEX-18 News.
It's been 20 years since the shooting at Heath High School in Paducah. Now, just 30 miles away, the community of Marshall County finds itself with the eyes of the nation focused on them.
Daddy, there's been a shooting, and I heard it.
Terror and fear turn to anguish with news of two 15-year-olds dead, 17 others hurt.
These children belong to this community and to specific families in this community.
Another teen faces murder charges. The survivors are shaken, knowing this is forever Benton's history. LEX-18 News at 6 starts now. Good evening. I'm Nancy Cox.
And I'm Kevin Christopher. Thanks for joining us at 6.
The armed student first came into the Marshall County High School at 3 minutes until 8 Central Time and immediately opened fire. The first call for help was made 2 minutes later. It only took emergency crews 7 minutes to get to the scene. The first unit pulled up at 8:06.
That scene at Marshall County High in Benton is a 9th through 12th grade school of more than 1,300 students. Karolina Buczek spoke to students who say they are thankful to be alive tonight. She's live in Benton to begin our big story at 6.
Police still have this school shut down. Take a look. You can see flashing lights in the distance. There's so many officers out here, and they're all trying to figure out what was the motive. Why did this 15-year-old bring a loaded gun to school? And that's an answer so many parents and students also want, because they say they never expected this. Now, students say they gathered somewhere here in the Commons area for what they thought was just going to be an ordinary Tuesday morning, when all of a sudden they heard loud pops. When they turned around, they saw a familiar face with a gun.
I hear some gunshots, and I thought it was some kid with firecrackers or something, and I look back, and it's someone with a gun.
Students took off running away from the gunman.
Everybody was running, screaming and crying. A lot of people were crying because, I mean, we all knew all these kids. Like, these were familiar kids.
Parents say they only realized what had happened once their kids told them.
Eric said that there was a shooting. One of his friends had gotten shot in the leg and was running down the road. He wasn't inside. My other son was inside.
And it took a while to hear from him, but even that was bittersweet.
As soon as I got confirmation that he was okay, I kind of just started praying for everyone else.
And police say those prayers are very much needed right now.
There were a total of 14 shot. One female died at the scene. One male died at the hospital. A tragic day for all of us.
Police haven't released the shooter's identity, but students say they saw who it was, and they're shocked by what happened.
He seemed really nice, and my friend told him that it didn't seem like he got bullied or anything, like he didn't really have a motive to do it.
And that motive, that is what police are trying to figure out. They say they have questioned the shooter, and they've also searched his home. Covering the news live from the LEX-18 mobile newsroom, back to you.
Doctors at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville say the ages of the injured students they admitted ranged from 15 to 18.
They say they had 3 victims with gunshot wounds to the head, one of whom did not survive. One student was shot in the arm, while another had to undergo surgery for gunshots to the chest and abdomen. That student is now in ICU, and doctors say they expect him, as well as the other students who were injured, to survive. Doctors say they're never prepared for the emotional toll of mass shootings, especially when young people are involved.
What we have to do is we have to cut our emotions off when we're trying to save somebody's life. But you can't hold that within yourself for a long period of time, and we've learned that we have to debrief and discuss this amongst ourselves, because we too suffer from this, but our job is to keep people alive.
Doctors say all the surviving students under their care are males. Hundreds of parents dropped their children off at Marshall County High this morning, only to get a call just minutes later that there had been a shooting.
One of those parents is also a photojournalist for our sister station, WPSD in Paducah. He suddenly found himself watching everything unfold firsthand. Angie Bevan continues our big story team coverage.
I can tell you that that phone call will be one that I'll never forget. Her words, "Daddy, there's been a shooting."
That was only 5 minutes after Chad Darnell dropped his daughter off at school. He headed back and wound up witnessing much of what was happening just after the gunfire.
3 helicopters have now got to campus.
Capturing video of the aftermath, the photojournalist was taking shelter in a security guard building, along with 3 students who had run from the school.
I was apparently right next to it because one of my friends got shot.
Each of them recalling the terrifying moments inside the high school. Another student also witnessed the shooting firsthand.
I was talking to one of my buddies in the Commons and he got shot in his chest. We ran out together, but I lost him. I don't know where he went.
The students had contacted their parents, and soon law enforcement came to get them. The whole morning, unbelievable.
It just doesn't seem like this should happen. Like, I can't even, like, this, it's just, I'm just startled. Like, I'm still trying to gather myself that this is actually happening.
Covering the news in Marshall County, Angie Bevan, LEX-18 News.
Politicians at both the state and U.S. capitals say they are devastated by this tragedy.
Governor Bevan and others rushed to Marshall County this morning. LEX-18's Kylen Mills caught up with him. She joins us here in the studio with how the state leaders are reacting.
Yeah, Nancy and Kevin, we spotted Governor Bevan running out of a side door at the Capitol along with 2 staffers. He told us he was heading to Marshall County, and that news of the shooting spread quickly not only to Frankfort, but to D.C. A shockwave sent through the Kentucky Capitol this morning as lawmakers learned of the deadly school shooting. We spotted Governor Matt Bevin running out of the state capitol around 10:30.
Excuse me, Governor Bevin?
Yes.
Can you do available today for the press?
I'm not sure. I've got to go to Marshall County right now.
Okay, you're headed that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Once he arrived in Marshall County this afternoon, the governor choked up talking about the teenage victims.
Respect the fact that these children belong to this community and to specific families in this community. And this is a wound that is going to take a long time to heal.
State Representative Will Coursey and State Senator Danny Carroll also both rushed from Frankfort to Western Kentucky, and word of the shooting spread quickly to D.C.
I know I speak for communities across my home state in sending prayers of comfort and healing to students, faculty, and everyone affected by this violence.
U.S. Congressman Andy Barr in Richmond today for a meeting, telling us his heart hurts for those in Marshall County and that change needs to happen.
Well, as a father of 2 daughters who attend schools, it's always on my mind about school safety and in addition to the mental health reforms that we need to continue to work on.
Covering the news, Kylen. A number of other politicians have released statements or tweeted about the tragedy, including Congressman James Comer and the Kentucky Secretary of State, Allison Lundergan Grimes. There's no doubt the hurt is being felt across our state and the country. Back to you.
Indeed, Kylen, thanks. And reaction is also coming in from Fayette County Public Schools. They tweeted, "Please join us in keeping the entire Marshall County High School community close in thought and prayer," end quote. This school shooting isn't the first in Western Kentucky. 20 years ago, tragedy happened at Heath High School in Paducah. A survivor who lives here in Lexington now shares her reaction. Jacqueline Nie continues our big story team coverage.
In 1997, students at Heath High School in Paducah went to school like any other day. When just before 8 a.m., Michael Carneal opened fire, forever changing the lives of students, staff, and their community.
I was in the room where the shooting happened 20 years ago. I was with a close friend when she was shot and killed next to me.
Now 20 years later, and 30 minutes down the street, another shooting, this time at Marshall County High School. Brittany Thomas says the people of Benton are her and her family's neighbors.
You just think it would never happen in the same community twice. Like, lightning shouldn't strike the same place twice.
Thomas even had two cousins who were at Marshall County High School when the shooting happened.
One of them we knew right off the bat was fine. The other one, and it didn't take us long, we were able to get information from them very quickly. So I really wasn't lingering kind of in that waiting like a lot of families were.
For Thomas, it's easy to put herself back in her 15-year-old shoes.
I would hope that people in Marshall County would know, like, the Paducah community is right there for you. We've walked this path. They loved on us and helped us get through it, and we want to be there and do the same for them.
Covering the news in Lexington, Jacqueline Nie, LEX-18 News.
This story continues to develop, and as we get more information, we'll have it here on TV and on our website, lex18.com.
Scott County Deputy Jamie Morales lives to make the most of every day. His drive and determination served him well in the U.S. Marines.
They definitely ingrained that in us, no matter the situation, to always come up top.
He did. Morales excelled in marksmanship, martial arts, and became a certified rescue swimmer, just to name a few of his accomplishments. His transition to law enforcement continued his desire to serve. Now, more than ever, his life motto holds true.
Just to adapt and overcome, that comes back from the Marine Corps.
And that's exactly what the 28-year-old plans to do since his life changed September 11th, the night he was shot while going after a serial bank robber. His injury left him paralyzed for now.
At the beginning, it was, obviously very emotional. Your whole life just changed. You're wondering what's going to happen.
Just over 2 months later, Morales does rehab 5 days a week.
So we have seen some improvement, and we've also regressed some in some areas, but we're fighting through it.
He's adapting and still setting goals.
I kind of had to set some new ones, but as of right now, get back on my feet if possible, and eventually going back to work. Hopefully as a police officer. If not, then I'll make the best of the situation.
This tough Marine and dedicated deputy remains encouraged by a community that's backed him since day one. 217! His supporters 217 strong. His homecoming, nothing he ever expected.
It was almost like a dream. Everybody screaming and yelling, and that I'll never forget. And I think that on a day like today, Thanksgiving, it's probably the best time to give thanks to, the community and my family and my girlfriend that, have been there for me, and yeah, it's been amazing.
He's thankful. Number 217 is strong.
That number has become like a part of me, so when I see it anywhere, it's like seeing myself there. I hope I represented it to the best of my ability.
Oh, you're still representing it.
Yeah.
Leigh Searcy, LEX-18 News. Tom Payne, the first African-American to play basketball at UK, was serving a life sentence behind bars in connection with a rape case from the 1970s. Nancy Cox is in Oldham County with this breaking news. Tom Payne has been serving a life sentence here at the Kentucky State Reformatory some 30 years in, but soon he'll get out and get a chance at redemption for what he called his brutal rapes. Here's the moment he heard the news.
It is our recommendation today that your parole be reinstated.
Thank you, man.
Well,
thank you.
It was difficult for Tom Payne not to express his joy, but the parole board members pointed out sternly, another parole violation, another crime against a woman, and he would likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. But for now, Tom Payne enjoyed the moment.
Good luck to you, Mr. Payne. Good luck, sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. That's my reaction. Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Coming up on LEX-18 News, Tom Payne's words as he made his case for freedom, which included a message to UK. By the way, yesterday was Tom Payne's 68th birthday, one he won't likely forget. Covering the news in LaGrange, Nancy Cox, LEX-18 News. With her head held high, Chief Circuit Judge Beth Mays appeared in this Bath County courtroom with her 3 attorneys, one of them a former judge.
Also here is support Kentucky Supreme Court Justice Bill Cunningham, who is related to Mays, and former state appeals court judge David Barber.
Ms. Mays, I'm quite sure you understand your constitutional rights.
Yes, sir. Attorneys for the suspended judge over Rowan, Bath, Menifee, and Montgomery counties entered a not guilty plea to 3 criminal charges. A grand jury indicted Mays on 2 counts of forgery second and 1 count of tampering with public records. She's accused of forging the names of others, including the Bath County attorney and the Commonwealth's attorney, on court orders without their knowledge. They were drug test orders involving her ex-husband's arrest.
I never saw that order.
We first reported her alleged actions in August.
I did write that, and am I sorry I wrote it? Sure. That night, it was a very emotional night. My children were upset. I was upset.
Mays, who is suspended with pay, also faces 5 ethics charges from the Judicial Conduct Commission for alleged conduct related to her ex-husband's arrest. Since day one, Mays has stood by her integrity as a judge. Her attorney believes she would not be here if she had the chance to testify before the grand jury.
She's an outstanding judge by every account I've heard. I've heard nobody make any derogatory comments about her performance as judge, and we're hoping that we can come through this process and she can resume her position as a judge in this circuit.
Covering the news in Bath County, Leigh Searcy, LEX-18 News.
It's a dream come true, 75 years in the making. A Central Kentucky World War II veteran finally received his Marine dress blues at the age of 95.
Corporal James Cecil suited up for us today to share his story and proudly show off his uniform. Claire Crouch has more for us in this Making a Difference.
Oh, you look great. At 95 years old, Corporal James Cecil is standing tall and still saluting, proud of the country he served.
Thank God I made it. I've lived a good life.
He enlisted in the Marines at the age of 17 and a half, alongside 18 of his classmates at Lexington's Lafayette High School. He went on to bravely serve in World War II, fighting in some of the bloodiest battles of the Pacific, including Okinawa and Saipan. He was promoted to corporal after killing a Japanese officer and even got a Purple Heart.
I had a lot of close calls.
But during all of that, one thing that kept him going was dreaming of one day wearing those sharp Marine dress blues.
I always said when I got home and it's all over with, first thing, Cecil, you are gonna get yourself a set of blues and have a night on the town.
But decades later, after 60 years of marriage, owning a business, and raising 2 sons, he still hadn't gotten them until his friends at Thompson Hood Veterans Center in Wilmore made it a reality.
I'm so happy. I can't believe it happened.
You're doing great. So with the assistance of his family and others, Corporal Cecil is now the proud owner and wearer. You look sharp. Of an official set of dress blues, a small token of appreciation for a man who has done so much for our country.
I'm tickled to death. I can't express how happy I am.
In Jessamine County, for this Making a Difference, Claire Crouch, LEX-18 News.
It happens daily.
Respond to the new marathon, reference possible overdose.
To family, friends.
You respond in reference to an overdose ×2.
Call after call to save somebody, someone.
I have a 39-year-old male that overdosed on heroin.
Sometimes the person lives. Until next time.
He started taking pain pills.
Just ask Tommy Gillespie's loved ones who watched him struggle after back surgery.
It wasn't like Tommy woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to shoot heroin in my arm.
The husband and father who loved to work on cars battled a roller coaster ride with drugs.
And we looked for him for 2 hours.
In October 2016, Gillespie's cousin says he was found unconscious in a Lexington shopping center.
He was in the vehicle when he overdosed.
First responders took him to a hospital and saved his life.
He didn't really know where he was.
Teresa Goodlett says he was on parole, but never charged. He left the hospital free and clear, along with some life-saving backup in case of another overdose.
There were 2 things of Narcan in his belongings.
13 months later, Gillespie, who tried to live a clean life, died after overdosing on fentanyl. Relatives wonder if going to jail with mandatory treatment would have made a difference.
I think with all my heart he would be alive had he had to be accountable for what he did.
Kentucky's one of 40 states with a Good Samaritan law. Enacted in 2015, it protects people from prosecution if they report an overdose or OD themselves. It's meant to encourage people to call for help instead of leaving someone to die for fear of being charged with drug possession or drug paraphernalia. But some of Tommy Gillespie's family believe part of the law may be hurting more than it's helping.
I don't want somebody to not save somebody's life, to be exempt from prosecution or criminal charges that anybody else would be if they weren't calling for assistance. It's crazy.
The numbers keep increasing. In 2016, Kentucky reported 13,000 overdose cases in emergency rooms. 1,404 people died. 2017 numbers are expected to be even higher. So is the law working?
I don't consider it enabling. I consider it dealing with a problem.
Kentucky's Director of Drug Control Policy says the state spends $1.5 million a year to supply emergency responders and hospitals with Narcan and counselors to help addicts. He doesn't believe the law gives them a pass.
A person passed out behind the wheel because they've been drinking is not about to die. The person who's laying there in an opioid use or of an opioid overdose, they're going to die. We're trying to save their life.
Tommy Gillespie's family questions if this is the right kind of help.
I think that they need to be held accountable for their actions. I don't think that ignoring what they've done will help anybody. It didn't help him.
Covering the news, Leigh Searcy, LEX-18 News.
You probably know how angry teachers are over proposed changes to the public pension system. Today they gathered at the Capitol once again to rally for increased funding. Some even had the support of their bosses, who went so far as to cancel classes. LEX-18's Karolina Buczek has that story.
Plenty of teachers from Eastern Kentucky were here today. Some districts actually closed down for the day so teachers could come here to the Capitol. Funding first! And they were not afraid to get loud as they marched around the Capitol fighting for their pension. They held hundreds of signs with all sorts of messages like stop running over teachers and a pension is a promise, and their chants were even more direct to lawmakers.
We vote now, we vote later.
Teachers made it clear if lawmakers didn't find the funding, they will try to vote them out in the next election. And it's not just their pensions that they want to be funded. They also want budget cuts to stop so student programs and resources are saved.
We're here for the kids, not just for our pensions. It's not about us. We're not being selfish. We're fighting for the kids of Kentucky, and we're fighting for the future of Kentucky.
And teachers say this is not the last time they plan on being here at the Capitol. They say they are not going away. Covering the news in Frankfurt from the LEX-18 Mobile Newsroom, back to you.
What Eastern Kentucky lawyer Eric Conn did was illegal. But when he defrauded more than $500 million from Social Security, was it morally bankrupt?
Certainly.
Lexington attorney Scott White once represented Conn.
Whether that's 10 people or 1,490 that have legitimate claims and should have received disability benefits.
But most are no longer receiving those, and it's due mainly to their involvement with Conn.
And therefore, the disability benefits were immediately revoked.
Even if they weren't fraudulent?
Even if they weren't fraudulent.
But for attorney Ned Pillersdorf, who represents many of Conn's former clients,
he's had a nationwide negative effect with this outrageous annex.
Eric Conn deserves most of the blame for the role he played in helping to swindle the federal government.
He routinely did not submit important medical records, and now we know why.
It's because he didn't have to. In this case, he had a judge, David Daugherty, helping him ram these claims through, more than 3,100 of them, for a cut of the action, of course. Daugherty is now serving 4 years for his involvement.
I mean, the only guy who got rich in all this is Eric Conn and maybe Judge Daugherty. I don't think there's any question Eric Conn has done more damage to the legal profession than any lawyer in the history of this nation.
And while Mr. Pillersdorf might be right about the damage done by Conn to the legal profession, it pales in comparison to the impact this has all had on the more than 1,500 victims. Cheryl Martin of Dana in Floyd County is one of the 1,539. She looks well despite battling stage 4 lung cancer, and she's actually one of the lucky ones.
You know, they can't argue with me that I'm old.
So when her disability benefits, about $1,000 a month, disappeared in the wake of this scandal, Social Security kicked in to cover the difference.
A lot of these people are a lot younger than I am, and so they don't have that benefit.
And without it, some of them saw no way out.
There's other people involved in this whose family members have committed suicide.
Like Emma Burchett, who works for the Floyd County Chronicle and Times.
We had no means to pay for his medications or for him to go to the doctor.
So her husband stopped taking those medications, despite Emma's plea not to, and then he killed himself.
And to just stop taking it abruptly like that, well, obviously the ramifications were horrific.
Conn's failure to realize the horror, even as he scribbled his musings in a 42-page letter from prison, is what most bothers Pillersdorf.
And the lawyer who for years advertised that he cared about these people couldn't find the time to say one word in those 42 pages.
Probably comes back to the original question.
I don't think he necessarily feels that bad for the people that now claim that their disability has been improperly taken away, because he did his job for them. He got them their disability.
I never left.
But he did it in a way that could now land him in prison for life. Many of those left in his wake have received a life sentence of a much different kind. Covering the news in Floyd County, Michael Berk, LEX 18 News.
Extra police responded to Scott County High School this morning after a fight among a few students turned into an all-out brawl.
By the time it was all said and done, 2 teachers and a police officer had minor injuries. LEX 18's Leigh Searcy has the big story at 6. Around 8:40, this was the scene outside the cafeteria at Scott County High School. What began as a fight between a few girls quickly escalated. Teachers and a police officer tried to intervene, but even the officer was attacked when more students piled on the situation.
But the level of violence in this video is completely uncalled for.
Police say up to 10 female students were involved in the brawl. It ended about as quickly as it started.
Students involved are going to be charged accordingly. We are not going to tolerate that kind of behavior.
There were no weapons. This is not a gang issue.
Police say the school was aware of friction building between the teens and had talked to parents and taken measures to try and avoid this.
She don't want to go to school.
Dakilla Jackson says her 16-year-old sister was attacked and targeted by a couple of the girls in what she calls an ongoing problem with them. Her sister wasn't physically hurt.
For her not to want to go to school, and she doesn't cause any trouble. For her not to want to go to school or anything, we knew that something was wrong. We just could not figure it out. And then she goes back to school, and then this is what happened.
Police say several of the teens will face assault charges. Jackson believes preventing violence starts at home.
I feel like people should just really wake up and actually be more involved with their kids. Know what's going on with your kids.
Covering the news in Scott County, Leigh Searcy, LEX 18 News.
For example, one of the most special memories for so many kids on Christmas morning is getting that brand new bike. But for some children, that wish is out of reach as their families struggle to keep up with basic needs like food and shelter.
So LEX 18 teamed up with Father Jim Sitchko, or Father Christmas as we call him, to give the gift of 2 wheels to 100 second graders in Corbin. Take a look. Hunter Hills Elementary in Laurel County looks more like Santa's workshop. 100 brand new Trek bikes without homes. But wouldn't you know it, waiting in the cafeteria, the entire 2nd grade, 100 kids from the nice list.
And I'm giving you a free bike today. You have won a free bike. Don't cry, don't get all upset. No, it's all right.
No, just something just fell out of my eye.
Oh, something just fell out of his eye. Okay, yeah. My heart is just overflowing right now. You know why? Because you were all being so kind to this young man. I have bikes and helmets for everyone. Look, look, come on, get your bike. Go, whatever bike you want. It's not about just receiving something free. It's about recognizing that good has come upon them and that by being good, now they are called to be good to others.
Such a message in the form of a bicycle, a wish come true.
See what you did? Because of your goodness, everyone got a bike.
A gift to all the adults watching as well.
I know they will never forget this moment. I was in tears because I know some of these kids will never have an opportunity to own a bike.
This challenges me with, you know, being the leader here or in my church ministry. Just it challenges me to just do more and to dream big.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Say Merry Christmas.